I sent one message to the family group chat at 6:47 inches the morning. Mom's funeral is Saturday at 2 p.m. Street Michael's on Birch. Please be there. That's all I wrote. No begging, no crying emoji, no paragraph about how she spent her last breath whispering all four of our names. Just the time, the place, and a quiet please. My mother had been sick for 3 years. Not the kind of sick where you visit on Sundays and bring flowers. The kind where you move back into your childhood bedroom at 29, cancel your lease in Denver, leave a job you actually loved, and learn how to change an IV bag at 2 in the morning while the rest of the house sleeps. Except there was no rest of the house. It was just me. My older sister had a busy career in Atlanta. My brother had just moved to Austin with his girlfriend. My younger sister, the baby, was traveling through Europe, posting sunsets and cocktails on her stories every single day. I was the one who stayed. I was the one who learned which medications she needed at which hour, who slept on a mattress on the floor next to her hospital bed in the living room because she was afraid of dying alone in the dark. I was the one who held her hand when the doctor said weeks, maybe less. And I was the one sitting beside her when she actually stopped breathing. It was a Tuesday, 4 to 12 a.m. Rain against the window, the oxygen machine still humming because I hadn't thought to turn it off yet. She just went quiet. That was it. No dramatic last words, no movie scene. Just a woman who had been fighting for 3 years finally deciding she was done. I sat there for 40 minutes before I called anyone. Not because I was in shock. Because for the first time in 3 years, I didn't have a task. No medicine to give, no pillow to adjust, no vitals to check. Just silence and the rain and the strange, awful, weightless feeling of being needed by no one. I called my sister first. The older one. She picked up on the 4th ring, voice thick with sleep. Mom passed, I said. She was quiet for a second, then, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I don't know yet." She said she'd try to come for the funeral but couldn't make promises because there was a leadership conference that week and she'd already committed. I called my brother next. He didn't pick up. I texted him. He replied 3 hours later. "That's rough. Let me know the details." No call back. No "Are you okay?" Just "That's rough," like I'd told him the dishwasher broke. My younger sister saw the message in the group chat 12 hours later. She sent a single heart emoji and then posted a photo of herself in Barcelona that evening. So, when Saturday came, when I sent that final message with the time and place, I didn't expect much. But I wasn't prepared for what I got. My older sister replied first. "I'm so sorry. I really tried, but I can't get out of this conference. They're announcing promotions this week." Then my brother. "Austin's far, and flights are insane right now. I'll send flowers." Then the baby. "I'm still in Spain. You know I would if I could. Thinking of you." 3 replies. 3 excuses. Not a single one of them coming. I put my phone face down on the kitchen counter and stared at the ceiling for a long time. The house still smelled like her lavender lotion. Her reading glasses were still on the side table. Her robe was still hanging on the bathroom door. And her 4 children, the ones she raised alone after Dad left, the ones she worked double shifts to put through school, the ones she called every single Sunday without fail until she got too sick to hold the phone, not one of them was going to be there to say goodbye. I didn't cry. I think I was past that. I typed one reply back to the group chat, "Okay?" Then I closed the phone and started ironing my black dress. The funeral was small. That's what I expected. What I didn't expect was how not small it turned out to be. Because when I arrived at Street Michael's at 1:30 that Saturday, there were already cars lining the street. Not 5 or 6, maybe 40. I didn't recognize most of them. I walked inside, and the pews were half full. By 2 p.m., they were completely full, and people were standing in the back. Her neighbor from 20 years ago drove 3 hours from Savannah. A woman I'd never met showed up in full nurse's scrubs because she'd just come off a night shift at the hospital where my mom had been treated. She told me your mother used to sneak extra Jell-O cups to the kids on the pediatric floor whenever she had an appointment. She wanted to be here, even like this. 3 of my mom's former coworkers from the school cafeteria came in matching scarves because apparently my mom used to wear a teal scarf every Friday and they wanted to honor that. I didn't know that about her. I thought I knew everything, but I didn't know about the Friday scarf. The priest spoke. Then a woman named Dolores, my mom's oldest friend, stood up and told a story about how my mother once drove 45 minutes in a snowstorm to bring soup to a stranger she met at church. Then the school principal spoke. Then a retired mail carrier. Then a girl, maybe 19, who said my mother used to tutor her in math for free every Thursday after school, and that she just got accepted into nursing school, and that she came today because she wanted my mom to know, wherever she was. I stood at the front, watching all of this. Watching strangers fill the space my family left empty, and something shifted in my chest. Not grief. Something harder, something clearer. After the service, a woman approached me in the parking lot. She was holding a camera and a press badge. She introduced herself as a reporter for the local paper and said someone had called in a tip about the funeral. She asked if I'd be willing to answer a few questions about my mother and the turnout. I almost said no. But then I looked back at the church, at all those people hugging and crying and holding each other, people who showed up for a woman they didn't owe anything to, while her own children couldn't bother to book a flight. And I thought about what my mom always said. Don't hide the truth just because it's uncomfortable. So I said yes. She asked simple questions. Who was your mother? What was she like? How long were you her caregiver? Then she asked the one I wasn't ready for. Is your family here today? I paused, took a breath, and said, no. They couldn't make it. She waited, and I could tell she wanted more, but I didn't give it. I just said, my mother spent her whole life showing up for people. Today, people showed up for her. That should be the story. The article ran the following Monday. Front page of the local section. Photo of the packed church, the teal scarves, the girl who got into nursing school holding a framed picture of my mom. The headline read, something about a mother whose community gave her the farewell her family didn't. It was a beautiful piece. Respectful, honest. And it spread. By Tuesday, it had been picked up by 3 other outlets. By Wednesday, it was on one of those national morning shows. Not the full story, just a 2-minute segment with a photo and a line about how the community turnout highlighted the invisible labor of caregivers, who are often the last ones cared for. I didn't seek any of it out. I didn't post it, didn't share it, didn't tag anyone. But the internet doesn't need your permission. By Thursday, someone in the family group chat, not my siblings but a cousin, shared the article with a comment. This is beautiful. Did anyone else see this? Silence. Dead silence. 4 hours later, my older sister sent me a private message. Why didn't you tell me this would be such a big deal? I read it 3 times. Such a big deal. As if our mother's funeral needed media coverage to qualify as important. As if the only reason to show up was the audience. I didn't reply. My brother texted next. Sent flowers. Not sure if they made it. Did they? They didn't. I checked the church, the house, the funeral home. No flowers. I didn't tell him that, though. I just replied. It was a nice service. He left me on red. My younger sister was the most creative. She posted a throwback photo of her and mom on Instagram. Black and white filter. Caption about angels watching over us, and how some bonds transcend distance. It got 200 likes. The top comment was from someone who had seen the article. Weren't you in Barcelona when this happened? She deleted the post within the hour. I watched all of this unfold from the same kitchen counter where I'd stood alone at 6:47 a.m. that morning, and I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Not anger, not sadness. Freedom. The kind that comes when you stop performing for people who aren't watching. The thing about caregiving is that it hollows you out slowly. For 3 years, my world was medication schedules, hospital visits, insurance calls, sleepless nights, and this constant low hum of worry that never turned off, not even in dreams. I forgot what I liked. I forgot what I wanted. I forgot that I used to paint, that I used to run in the mornings, that I used to laugh so hard at stupid things that I'd cry. Mom's death didn't just leave a hole, it left a question. Now what? For 2 weeks after the funeral, I didn't do much. I cleaned the house. Slowly. Not because it needed it, but because every drawer I opened had something of hers in it, and I wasn't ready to stop finding her. A birthday card she'd written me, but never sent. A recipe for banana bread in her handwriting. A list of things she wanted to do when she got better, written in shaky pencil on the back of a pharmacy receipt. That list broke me more than anything. Learn to swim. Visit the Grand Canyon. See all 4 kids in one room again. She never got any of them. Then, on a Wednesday, I got a letter. No return address. Just my name in handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside, 1 page. Dear someone I've never met. I read your mother's story in the paper. I lost my father last year, and I was his only caregiver. My siblings didn't come to his funeral, either. I just wanted to say I see you, and you're not alone. It was signed with just a first name. Claire. I sat at the kitchen table and read it 4 times. Then I got another one the next day. Then 2 more. Then a whole stack by the end of the week. All from caregivers. All with the same story. I did everything. I gave everything. And when it was over, I was invisible. Some were angry. Some were grateful. All of them were exhausted. And every single one of them said the same thing in different words. Nobody showed up for me. That's when the idea came. Not as a grand plan, not as a mission statement. Just a thought. Small and stubborn, sitting in my chest like a seed. What if someone did show up? I called it The Last Shift. The name came to me while I was washing dishes. Because that's what caregiving feels like, a shift that never ends until suddenly it does, and then nobody relieves you. Nobody clocks in after. You just stand there, hands empty, wondering what happened to the years. The last shift would be a support network for family caregivers, the ones who gave up careers, apartments, relationships, their 20s and 30s to take care of someone they loved. Not just emotional support. Real, tangible help. Meal deliveries during the hardest weeks. Cleaning crews for the houses that got neglected. Career counseling for people trying to re-enter the workforce after years away. Grief counseling that actually understood caregiver grief, which is different from regular grief because you start mourning before the person is even gone. I filed the paperwork on a Monday. By Friday, the story had hit a second wave online and suddenly people were asking what happened to the caregiver daughter, and I had an answer. I launched a small website. Nothing fancy. Just a form where caregivers could request support and volunteers could sign up to help. In the first 48 hours, over 300 people signed up. Volunteers from 9 states. A therapist offered free sessions. A meal prep company donated 6 months of service. A law firm offered pro bono help with estate planning for caregivers. And a retired teacher from Ohio sent me an email that just said, "Your mother raised you right." I'm in. The local news picked it up again. This time they wanted to do a full segment. Not about the funeral, not about my siblings. About the last shift. I agreed, but on one condition. The story wasn't about me, it was about the caregivers. They respected that. The segment aired on a Thursday evening, 5 minutes. Interviews with 3 caregivers who had already been matched with volunteers. One of them, a man in his 60s who had spent 7 years taking care of his wife with Alzheimer's, looked into the camera and said the thing I'd been carrying in my chest for years. When she died, everyone sent cards. But nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody asked if I'd eaten. Nobody came. I watched it from my mom's living room. Her robe was still on the bathroom door. I hadn't moved it. That night, my phone buzzed. A text from my older sister. "I saw the news segment. I didn't know you were doing all this." I stared at it for a while. Then I typed, "There's a lot you didn't know." I deleted it. Typed again. "You were busy." Deleted that, too. Finally, I just sent, "Thanks for watching." She didn't reply. But the next morning, I saw she had made a donation to The Last Shift, anonymous, but I recognized the amount. It was exactly how much a round-trip flight from Atlanta to home would have cost. I didn't acknowledge it. Not because I was petty. Because acknowledgement was what she was looking for, and I'd spent 3 years giving people what they were looking for instead of what I needed. My brother called 2 days later. First time he'd actually called, not texted, in over a year. I let it go to voicemail. His message was short. "Hey, I know I messed up. I should have been there. I don't really know what to say except I'm sorry and I'm proud of what you're building. Call me back if you want. I listened to it twice. Noted how careful his words were, how polished. Like he'd practiced. And I thought about my mom, who never practiced anything, who just showed up, messy and honest and real, every single time. I didn't call him back. Not that week. Not the week after. Not because I hated him, but because I was finally building something. And I couldn't afford to let guilt or obligation pull me backward. The last shift grew faster than I imagined. Within 2 months, we had chapters forming in 4 cities. A woman in Phoenix organized the first caregiver retreat. A group in Chicago started a weekly dinner for people who had just lost someone after a long illness. A college student in Michigan built us a better website for free because her grandmother had been cared for by a neighbor when her own family wouldn't help. And the letters kept coming. Not to the P.O. box anymore. To the website. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Each one a version of the same story. I gave everything. I was alone. No one came. And then, at the bottom, almost always the same line. Thank you for seeing us. One evening, I was invited to speak at a caregivers conference in Philadelphia. Small venue. Maybe 200 people. I almost didn't go. Public speaking was never my thing. But then, I remembered my mom standing in the school cafeteria serving 300 kids a day with a smile, even when her back hurt, even when she was tired, even when no one said thank you. She showed up. So, I showed up. I stood at the podium and told them the truth. I told them about the group chat, about the 3 replies, about the conference and the flowers that never arrived, and the Instagram post that got deleted. I told them about the 40 cars and the teal scarves and the 19-year-old girl who got into nursing school. And I told them what I learned. I said, for 3 years, I kept waiting for my family to see what I was doing, to notice, to say thank you or we're sorry, or even just how can I help. They never did. And for a long time, I thought that meant what I did didn't matter. But then I stood in a church full of strangers who loved my mother. And I realized the people who see you aren't always the ones who share your last name. Sometimes they're the ones who share your struggle. The room was quiet. Then a man in the 3rd row started clapping. Then the whole room. I stepped off the stage, and a woman grabbed my hand. She was crying. She said, I haven't left my house in 2 months since my husband died. I came here because I read your story. And I just want you to know, you're the reason I got dressed today. I held her hand and didn't let go for a long time. Behind her, near the exit, I saw someone standing by the door. Half hidden, arms crossed. My younger sister. She'd flown in from wherever she was now. No announcement, no text, no story post. She was just there, standing in the back of a room full of people who understood something she was only beginning to grasp. I looked at her for a moment. She looked at me. And I turned back to the woman holding my hand because that's who needed me right then. My sister left before the event ended. She didn't leave a note or send a message. But 2 days later, a package arrived at the house. Inside, a teal scarf. No card. She didn't need to sign it. I knew. I hung it on the bathroom door next to my mom's robe. Some mornings I look at them both hanging there, and I think about what my mom would say if she could see all of this. I think she'd be proud. Not because of the news coverage or the organization or the conference stage, but because she always said the same thing whenever life got hard. Don't wait for someone to fix it. Be the fix. I used to think that was just something tired moms say. Now I know it was a blueprint. A few weeks ago, I finally opened the family group chat again. Not to send a message. Just to look. The last thing in there was still my okay, from the day they all said they weren't coming. Nobody had written anything since. 4 months of silence in a group that used to share memes and dinner plans and holiday schedules. I thought about typing something. Thought about sending a photo of the conference, or the website, or the letters. But I didn't. Because some people need to find their own way back, and it's not my job to leave breadcrumbs for people who chose not to walk with me when the road was hardest. I closed the chat, archived it, and went back to the kitchen table where a new stack of letters was waiting. Every single one starting the same way. Dear someone who finally sees me. I read them all. Every word. Because if 3 years of caregiving taught me anything, it's this. You don't get to choose who stays, but you do get to choose what you build with the space they leave behind. And if you build it right, if you build it with truth and love and the kind of stubborn grace that refuses to let pain be the final word, then one day, the people who left will look up and see what grew where they used to stand. And they'll understand. Not in time to help, but in time to regret. And you'll already be somewhere else. Hands full, heart full, surrounded by people who didn't have to love you, but chose to anyway. That's the ending my mom would have wanted. Not revenge, not silence. Just a daughter who learned to show up the way she did, every single time.